Happy New Year! Welcome back to Leading with Purpose by HLAI, serving the Hispanic lawyers of Illinois. I'm your co-host, Jennifer Crespo. I am joined by Illinois Appellate Court Justice, the Honorable Jesse Reyes, and Illinois Workers' Compensation Commission Arbitrator, the Honorable Rachel Sinnen. Justice Reyes, Arbitrator Sinnen, thank you both for taking time today to be my guests. I want to talk to you about your backgrounds, about your current roles, your careers and where you are now, your community involvement and how you've been recognized by your community. Justice Reyes, let's begin with you. What is your origin story? How did your background lead you to the legal profession?
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Jennifer, for having me on the program. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. So I'm a product of Chicago, born, raised, and educated in Chicago, although my father migrated from Mexico City, and he made his way up to Chicago, and he stayed here and met my mom, and the rest of it's history, as they say. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. I went to St. Procopius Elementary School, which is located in Pilsen, and then from there we moved to Bridgeport, and I went to Thomas Kelly High School, and from there I went to the University of Illinois, Chicago, and then in John Marshall Law School, which is now UIC Law. The road that way wasn't that easy as the way it makes it sound, but that was basically my path. And I always wanted to be a lawyer. Ever since I can remember, it was something that I was always very passionate about. I loved reading histories, and Abraham Lincoln and Theodore Roosevelt and the founding fathers were always like role models to me because what they did and what they created, and in many regards they were very unselfish in terms of dedicating their lives to the country and to people and giving back. And then that was one of the things that I always wanted to do. If I ever got to be where I was at today, I wanted to make sure that I always gave back, and that's one of my passions.
Thank you, Justice Reyes.
It's my pleasure.
Arbitrator Sinnen, we just heard from Justice Reyes about how he is a product of Chicago, his family is from Mexico, and how his upbringing and where he was, his love of history, brought him to the legal profession. I'm interested, where did you grow up? Where is your family from? How did you decide to become a lawyer?
Yeah, and thank you again for having me here today. I was actually born in California, in San Diego. My mother born and raised in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And in San Diego, California, she met a cheesehead, a white man from Wisconsin, right? And so we moved around a lot when I was younger, but eventually we did make the Chicago area our home. Both of my parents really valued education and hard work. I was an avid golfer, and I actually had a golf scholarship. So I went for my undergraduate at Loyola University. I played golf there. So I got my Bachelor's of Arts in Spanish, as well as a Bachelor's of Business in Finance at Loyola. I actually kept going. I stayed an extra year and got my MBA at Loyola. It was around that time that I started having interest in law, and I thought I was really going to merge business and law together. But when I was at Chicago Kent College of Law, I actually really fell in love with trial advocacy, having trials. And trial attorneys are just a different breed of lawyers, is what I've learned. And I remember actually one of the things that one of my mentors, Judge David Erickson, who's the director of trial advocacy at the Chicago Kent College of Law, told me that, in your life, the problems you're going to have in your life is going to be like how many vacations you get to have, like how many TVs. It's not going to be, can I buy dinner for my family? And so you are going to come across people in your life that are going to need your help, and that those are their problems. And it was like our responsibility to help them. And that really made me think more about the profession of law as like service for like the general public rather than kind of more as like a white collar profession. And so that's something that I've always really remembered and thought of it more as that. And so I actually ended up going into workers' compensation pretty soon after that, representing injured workers, various union workers, and talking to people, laborers about kind of their daily struggles is something that was very meaningful to me. And after several years of being in private practice, I had the opportunity to apply to be an arbitrator. And so I am I'm a judge that handles strictly workers' compensation claims. And so in doing that, lucky to have been appointed by the governor and to be serving since about December of 2020 as an arbitrator.
Wow, what a career path to be where you are right now. Justice Reyes, could you tell our viewers a little bit, perhaps an abridged version, if there is any, your road to the robe?
Sure. So, I have very similar circumstances as the commissioner here, or I should say arbitrator. Right? I don't want to get you in trouble.
Maybe one day for me.
I went from college to law school, and I originally started in law school thinking I wanted to do wills, estates, and trusts. And then I took trial ad, and then I realized I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a trial lawyer. And so I pursued that. I got involved in every course that the school had to offer. I participated in a lot of the extracurricular type of mock trial competitions as well, and trying to develop my skills and my talent. And I also started out right out of law school working at a personal injury workers' comp firm and doing workers' comp and personal injury. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the monetary part of it. But the problem was that I wasn't getting any trials, and I wanted trials. And so I realized after a few months there that I had to go somewhere else to get trials. And some of my professors said, best place to get experience is in government. So they were looking for trial lawyers at the time. When Jim Montgomery was the corporation counsel at the city of Chicago, he wanted to change the office around, and so I applied, and I was fortunate enough to get into the torts division. For those viewers, those are cases that are at the city that are valued at $50,000 and over. So I got my trials, and because I had a lot of mock trial experience and a lot of experience with trial advocacy, I was also certified in federal court. So I got to go in state court and federal court to litigate on behalf of the city of Chicago. And I had a pretty successful record. I enjoyed it. You come into the world sometimes where you get a lot of no's. And I had a lot of no's when I was in school, and one in particular, a professor had told me that I shouldn't get into litigation. And I asked him why, and he basically said, it's because, you don't have blonde hair, blue eyes, and you're not 6 feet tall. I said, okay. So once I got to the city of Chicago, I was always sending him, as I said, I had a very good track record. I'd always send him my not guilties, my court orders. And then after about, 16 of them, he said, okay, I got it. All right. You were right and I was wrong. And the reason I share that is because, we all come into situations, sometimes we're judged by, how we appear, who we are, and you shouldn't let that stop you. Pursue your goals, pursue your dreams. I was fortunate enough to try many cases at the city of Chicago, and then went on to the Board of Education, and I had a lot of experience in litigation with the Board of Education before I went on the bench, and that also helped me in terms of when I became a trial judge. Having been on the other side of the bench, I knew how to administer a courtroom. And that also aided me, on the road to being on the appellate court as well. That experience was very beneficial.
Justice Reyes, what who are your colleagues on the Illinois Appellate Court? Where are they from in terms of their backgrounds and perhaps where they grew up or where their families are from?
Well, in the first district, our court is quite diverse, and I don't want to start naming names because then if I forget somebody, they're going to say, "How come you didn't mention me?" But it is quite diverse in terms of women and men, and then also the various backgrounds, social backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, as well, sexual orientation backgrounds, and so I enjoyed it. The state is, although the Constitution says we're one appellate court. But because the state has grown so much in terms of population, so we have 5 districts, and within those 5 districts there is an appellate court. And so in the first district, which is Cook County, because of the population, we're all by ourselves, we have 24 judges that serve on the court, and we're divided into divisions, and so it's I find it very fascinating and entertaining. And interesting work to do as well,
Thank you, Justice Reyes. And actually, Arbitrator Sinnen, I'm curious about how does somebody become an arbitrator? How does somebody become an administrative law judge? What is the makeup of your colleagues?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, like workers' compensation, it's its own system, and so it was developed kind of as a compromise. When someone gets injured at work, instead of having to file in circuit court and undergo like a long, lengthy litigation process, like when you're injured, you may not be having any kind of income, you're in the need of medical treatment. The system was developed to kind of fast track some of those hurdles. For example, we don't have any discovery, which is, from a trial standpoint, that's what I loved. Going ahead and having direct and cross-examinations with witnesses that I didn't even know they were appearing until the day of trial. So that was, from my standpoint, very, very intellectually stimulating. But the fast track, we're handling motions of people who are in need of income while they're getting treatment, people who are seeking particular types of treatment. The majority of my fellow arbitrators, a lot of them did come from private practice and workers' compensation. Others can come from other areas of law. We have other people that were prosecutors in the past, other people in like insurance fields. And so we have about 33 arbitrators, 14 in the Chicagoland area. I'm one of them. And then we have the others in downstate. And there's a variety of venues kind of all throughout the state. So depending on where your claim happened, you'd be assigned to that venue area. So not all cases you have to come to Chicago at the Daly Center. You might be out in Springfield or Mount Vernon or what other kind of areas, depending on the injury.
So in terms of your colleagues and the diversity of them, and as well as the people who are appearing before you and your colleagues, what does that look like? Why is it important perhaps to have that equity or that representation on the side of where you are right now arbitrating?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. I mean, I feel really fortunate to be in the state of Illinois and to have a governor who is willing to lean into diversity, especially in a time where, DEI is somehow trying to be turned into a bad word. In Illinois, I think based off 2023 census data, about 18% of the labor community is Hispanic Latinos, right? And so especially in a time where the general public might be very skeptical of the judicial branch, it's really important that when they're coming in, that they're seeing that there is diversity and representation amongst the various levels of our agency. So not only from our staff, but for the arbitrators and the commissioners. And I'm not the only Latina arbitrator, and that's amazing. And it's important that I think the general public sees that, and that the people, when they're having their claims decided, are seeing that as well.
So what I've heard from you both is you have a love of trials. You really like being there in the weeds, having that adrenaline rush when something comes up just out of the blue at the eve of trial. And the other thing that I have seen as very similar between the both of you is your commitment to service. And you have both mentioned this word diversity now. Justice Reyes, I'm actually very excited to get to this point right now because you are actually the president of the Diversity Scholarship Foundation.
Yes.
Now, Arbitrator Sinnen just talked about we're in this time when that word is, it's almost even a stand or an act of bravery to say it. Can you tell us a little bit about your role with the Diversity Scholarship Foundation and what that means in terms of your community involvement?
Sure. So, as I said before, growing up in Pilsen at a time when it was not, and in Bridgeport it was not, people were working class people, blue collar people, and I, as I said, I always aspired to become a lawyer, and my commitment was always to give back. And one way I've always done it throughout my entire career is getting involved in bar associations. The first thing I did when I got out, after I was sworn in, I should say, I went to this. It's kind of antiquated, and I know I'm dating myself, but I went to Sullivan's Directory, and they had added a listing of all the lawyers and organizations, associations, and that's what I looked into in terms of how to get involved. So, I got involved in the Illinois State Bar Association, I got involved in the Chicago Bar Association, but then I saw a listing for the Latin American Bar Association, so I became involved with the Latin American Bar Association, and eventually became president, and established a foundation, which now has gone on to become HLSF Foundation. But that's where my passion has always been, to give back, and I've always felt the way to give back is you go back to the beginning. You go back to the schools and to the law schools and help those students out. And in the early 2000s, I and a small group of lawyers and judges were looking at the lack of diversity in the legal profession, and we felt that we needed to address that issue somehow. And so we decided we're going to do it in a two-tier approach. So the one tier was to have Bar Association presidents attend an annual event and have them swear to an oath, all right, to promote diversity and inclusion in the legal profession. And we've always had somebody like a chief judge, either from state court or federal court, to administer that oath. We started out small. We had, I think, maybe the first swearing-in event, we had maybe about 10 or 11 Bar Association presidents, and now we've grown to where we have over 60 bar presidents that attend the annual event to get sworn in to promote diversity and inclusion in the legal profession. And the other tier of it is to provide scholarships for young people, to provide them an opportunity to fulfill their dreams. And so, we do that every year as well as at the annual event. And we've expanded our efforts beyond Chicago, beyond Cook County and Illinois, where we do the entire Midwest. So we give out scholarships to students in Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Indiana, and Missouri. And so this year we're going to be awarding 26 scholarships to law students, the most that we've ever given to a class. And so we're very excited about that. And the students are coming from Illinois and Wisconsin. But it's my dream of always making sure that we promote diversity and help out those that are not as fortunate as us. So our scholarships vary in terms of, we have one for academics. You do very well academically in law school. For students who have disabilities, so law students with disabilities. For leaders and achievers, people that have done something in their law school or in their communities. And then we also have the very popular bar prep tuition course. So we pay for the tuition for the students that are going to be taking the bar exam, because a lot of people don't realize that once you've graduated from law school, you're no longer a student, so you can't get student loans. And most are probably already in debt from the student loans that they had. So we try to provide them a means to pay for the tuition so they could take the bar prep course and then fulfill their dreams and their goals. And then we also help out other organizations like Appellate, the Public Interest Legal Institute, and Maldiv as well. So that's a little bit about the Diversity Scholarship Foundation, and we've been we've been around about 20, I think it's 23 years. I've been president for a number of those years, and I'm excited for the future.
Thank you for your work with the Diversity Scholarship Foundation, Justice Reyes. I actually remember taking that oath that the bar presidents take when I was president of HLAI, serving the Hispanic lawyers of Illinois. Justice Reyes, can you tell us a little bit about your involvement with HLAI? You
Sure.
were the recipient of HLAI's inaugural Judge of the Year award about 8 years ago now. Could you tell us about your experience with HLAI and what receiving that award meant to you?
Sure. So I don't want to. I don't know if I should mention because I noticed the logo. 30 years. I actually was there when we established HLAI and we're working on the bylaws, and so I was one of the founding members. My particular interest, like it always has been, is to making sure that not only did we have an association, but that we had a foundation where we were going to continue the work of giving scholarships to young people. And so I've always been involved with HLAI from that point in time. And to receive the award from HLAI meant a lot to me because this is coming from lawyers and judges in the association that I respect, and then for them to acknowledge my work, that meant a lot to me. I don't do it for the accolades or the recognition. I do it to help, and to be recognized for that means a lot. Yeah, so it was a great moment for me.
You look the exact same as you did 8 years ago. I looked up some of those photos. Arbitrator Sinnen, you have also added value to the Latino legal community. In fact, you are also the recipient of an inaugural HLAI award. You will be receiving the inaugural Administrative Law Judge of the Year award at HLAI's judicial reception on February 3rd. Can you tell us about your involvement with HLAI and what receiving this award means to you?
Yeah, I'll start with that last question. I mean, it means a lot. Not all bar associations kind of give that deference to the administrative law judges, and to see the Hispanic community kind of do that, it's very humbling. Like it feels like a great honor, and so I'm very grateful for that. As far as like how I ended up getting involved, kind of by chance, being at a event, seeing that volunteers were being needed for an upcoming gala, and I thought, well, I'm pretty good at putting together a party. I'm going to help with that, and I just ended up joining and helping. Meeting with caterers, and there's a lot of, I think. We were talking kind of off camera about sweat equity, and I really liked that word that you used about that. There's a lot of we always appreciate the financial donations, sponsorships. We could not operate without that, without a doubt. But no event just magically happens, right? Someone has to, do a lot of the work behind the scenes. Someone has to do that. You've been involved in so many events. I've seen both of you guys. I've been to the Unity Gala. There's so much that goes into those events. And so I would say to anybody that wants to become involved and maybe not feeling like they can do so in a financial way, the sweat equity means a lot. And like coming in, helping put together events, being willing to, whether it's centerpieces or, the dinner menu or printing out the menus or just some of that labor, it's what drives those events and what makes those things successful. And then those funds are what is able to allow various bar associations and HLAI to do some of its other work.
Well, thank you both for your sweat equity, for all the time you give us. Arbitrator Sinnen, Justice Reyes, I appreciate you spending this afternoon with HLAI. That's all the time we have today. For our viewers out there, don't miss an opportunity to meet Justice Reyes and Arbitrator Sinnen this month and in February. You can reserve your tickets to HLAI's judicial reception at HLAI.org and to Diversity Scholarships Foundation's gala at diversitychicago.org. I will see you back here next month when HLAI's president, Julio Costa, joins me for an interview about how he leads with purpose.